Bright lights, a roaring audience, and Stephen Colbert beaming with that signature smirk. It was supposed to be another night of controlled laughter. The monologue had wrapped. The crowd was warmed up. And then he introduced his next guest, former federal prosecutor, national security aide, and now author. Please welcome Kash Patel. The applause was mixed. Scattered cheers, polite claps, and a few murmurs. People weren't sure what to expect. Kash walked in wearing a navy suit, confident but calm. He shook Colbert's hand, nodded to the audience, and sat down. The mood? Tentative. Colbert, in his usual fashion, opened with a jab. "So, your book's out. Couldn't squeeze it all into your Twitter feed?" The door creaked open. A production assistant stepped in, hesitant. "There's been a change of plan. We won't be doing the second segment." Kash raised an eyebrow. "So I'm done?" She gave a small, polite shrug. "That's what I was told." Kash stood slowly. "You invited me to talk about the truth. I did. Now you cut me." "I just deliver the message," she said quietly. He nodded, slung his bag over his shoulder, and walked out without another word. And then, Kash smiled. "Books have spines, tweets don't." That line got a few laughs, but Colbert's smile stiffened. "Your book goes hard, FBI misconduct, media bias, a broken narrative. Why so serious, Kash?" Kash leaned in. "Because I've seen truth get twisted by punchlines, especially from this chair." The room froze. The band quieted. Even the laugh cue light stayed dark. Colbert adjusted his glasses. "You're saying we're part of the problem?" "No," Kash replied. "I'm saying you stopped being funny when you stopped being honest." That line hit harder than any monologue. The tension surged. Colbert, usually quick, hesitated. "Then let's talk," he said, his voice flat. And talk they did, but not the way CBS hoped. Colbert folded his hands. "You've accused the media of destroying trust in institutions. Are we doing that right now?" "Kash, you're not asking questions. You're performing alignment." Colbert, "So I'm a propagandist now?" "Kash, you read a ridicule difference. That's not comedy, it's conformity." The audience stirred. A few clapped. Some stayed frozen. Colbert stiffened. "And your book isn't just propaganda with footnotes?" Kash shot back. "It's based on records. Yours is based on applause." By now, the producers were exchanging glances. This was off script, and everyone knew it. Still, no one cut to break. Colbert pressed. "You called the FBI compromised. Is that what America should believe?" "Not America," Kash said. "Just the part that's been paying attention. Look at what they did to Trump. That wasn't justice, it was theater." Colbert snapped. "Or accountability finally catching up." Kash, "Or punishment for breaking their narrative." More silence. Colbert squinted. "Why should we believe you over career officials?" "Because I put my name on what I said." They leaked from the shadows. The crowd shifted again. Colbert was visibly uneasy. Kash stayed composed. "I came here to speak. You came here to script." "You ambushed us," Colbert said. "No, I just didn't read from your cue cards." A voice off camera. "Stephen, we need to cut." Colbert hesitated, looked at Kash, then turned back to camera. "We'll be right back." But the camera's cutting didn't stop what had already been ignited. The moment the show cut to commercial, the room didn't deflate, it cracked. Colbert rose from his chair silently, his jaw tight. He paced toward the edge of the stage while crew members scrambled into motion. But the usual chatter and laughter that filled the commercial breaks were nowhere to be found. Stagehands whispered. The floor manager gave clipped instructions. A lighting tech muttered, "What just happened?" Kash remained seated for a moment longer, hands folded. He scanned the room, not nervously, not victoriously, just present. Then, without saying a word, he adjusted his suit jacket and walked off stage. As he passed the band and crew, some avoided eye contact. A few stared openly, unsure whether to admire or resent what had just occurred. Backstage, a young assistant intercepted Colbert. "He's asking if he should still wait into the green room." Colbert turned sharply. "He's waiting." She nodded. "After that?" Another producer chimed in. "Stephen, you told us to let it play out." Yeah, I didn't think he'd hijack the whole thing, Colbert muttered, rubbing his eyes. That wasn't a conversation. That was a setup. Meanwhile, in the green room, Cash sat alone on a worn leather couch, sipping from a bottle of water. He wasn't scrolling through his phone. He wasn't pacing. He was still, focused. He expected this. He didn't plan every line, but he trained himself for the moment when confrontation replaces performance. Back on set, Colbert sat at his desk again, flipping through his next guest's cue cards. A movie star, a comedy bit, anything to reset the tone. But something had shifted. The air was heavier. The audience clapped dutifully when prompted, but the sparkle was gone. The shadow of the last exchange lingered like smoke. Then, just as the cameras began rolling for the final segment, a voice behind the curtain cut through the silence. "You didn't expect me to smile through it, did you?" Colbert turned. There stood Twige, arms folded, eyes unwavering. "I expected a conversation," Colbert replied curtly. "No," Cash said, "you expected a character. But I don't do pretend." Security stepped in, calm, professional. "Sir, we need to ask you to leave." Cash didn't resist. He nodded, turned, and walked out. No drama, just gravity. The rest of the episode unfolded like a formality. CBS staffers knew the story had already left the building. Online, clips were being posted. One audience member had recorded the entire segment on a phone. The hashtags began trending before the taping was even done. Hashtag Cash on Colbert, hash late show walk off, go hash punchline vs truth. Upstairs, Colbert watched the uncut footage with his senior producer. "We can't air all of this," the producer said. "If we cut it, we look scared. If we don't, we platform him. Either way, we lose." "He already took the moment," the producer whispered. Colbert didn't respond. He stared at the screen, replaying that final line in his head. "You think I'm the villain because I wouldn't let you write the script." It echoed. The internet didn't wait for CBS. Before the network issued a statement, clips of the confrontation that were already dissected on YouTube, debated on podcasts, and memed on every platform from Twitter to Telegram. Cash's line, "You're more afraid of the truth than the punchline," became a rallying cry. Inside CBS headquarters, executives gathered for an emergency meeting. "This is going to define the week," one said grimly, "and maybe the season." Colbert sat quietly while others talked strategy. They discussed cutting the segment entirely, airing an edited version, or releasing a statement. One junior producer dared to say aloud what everyone feared. "What if this wasn't just a bad segment? What if it exposed something we've ignored for too long?" By afternoon, CBS released a lukewarm statement. "The Late Show values open conversation. While we strongly disagree with many views expressed, we thank Mr. Patel for joining us." The damage control was half-hearted, and the public saw through it. Cash, on the other hand, was methodical. He didn't post immediately. He let the silence work. Then, in a short video shot in front of a bookshelf, he addressed the storm. "I didn't go there to fight. I went to speak. If truth causes friction, maybe it's not the truth that's the problem." Within hours, the clip had over 10 million views. Book sales surged. Interview requests flooded in. Major networks, once unwilling to platform him, now debated whether ignoring him made them complicit in exactly what he claimed. Narrative control. Colbert returned to the stage that evening, visibly more solemn. He opened without jokes. "Last night's show didn't go as expected. And maybe that's okay," he said. "This chair has been a space for laughter, but maybe it should also make room for discomfort." There were no laughs, no applause, just eyes locked on him. He continued, "The show isn't meant to echo chambers. It's supposed to challenge. And maybe I wasn't ready to be challenged. Maybe now I am." He ended with a promise. "You won't always agree with who sits across from me, but I won't pretend anymore that disagreement isn't worth airing." The clip went viral, but for once, the comment section wasn't filled with hate or cheering. It was filled with a rare tone in today's internet: reflection. As weeks passed, other shows became cautious. Guest bookings shifted. Producers debated allowing unpredictability. And behind it all was the ripple of one moment When a guest didn't laugh, didn't shout, didn't storm, he simply refused to play along. Kash appeared one last time, not in a studio, but sitting on a bench during a live podcast taping. When asked if he thought anything changed, he answered, "I think we were reminded that conversation is only real if both sides get to speak. And sometimes that reminder needs to be loud." The host nodded, the audience was quiet, and for a moment across a fractured landscape of comedy, media, and truth, silence spoke louder than any punchline.